Hi, my name is Callie Kaiser, and I'm going to give you a little intro on Scratch programming. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Scratch website, and I can find it at scratch.mit.edu. So this is the main page for Scratch. Scratch is a program where people can use computer programming and pretty basic snap block programming to create things, animated stories, games, other types of animations, and they can share them with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and in the top right corner, I'm going to click the sign in button and sign into my account. Alright, so I am now on the main page for Scratch. It gives me a lot of different information. If I was following any Scratch designers, I would see what they were working on in this block right here. Over here, Scratch News is provided by the company, and it lets me know of updates going on with the program. It lets me know of maybe any contests they have going. And then as I scroll down, there's featured projects from other designers, studios, remixes, etc. But today I want to focus on creating my own project. So there's 4 buttons up at the top. There's Create, Explore, Discuss, and Help. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to click on the Create button. One other thing I would like to point out with Scratch is I recommend using Google Chrome to do your projects. We've used Microsoft Firefox before, and it tends to lock up a little bit more than what it would if I was using Chrome. So now we're on the Scratch design page, and this area right here is where you get to see a preview of what it is that you're designing. Down here shows your different sprites, and sprites are the different characters that you have going on in your program. This middle section lets me look at my scripts, costumes, and sounds. So scripts are the computer programming blocks that we're going to use to get the sprite to do what we want it to do. And finally, this big section right here is our design area. So kind of for starters, we're going to look at how we can make a sprite move. We're going to look at ways maybe we can kind of change the way that it looks, and then maybe even add in some sound if there's some time. So first thing we have to do is for our sprite to start off is an event has to kind of kick everything off. It's got to be the starting thing. So I'm going to go to the events up here, and there's a lot of different ways you can get your sprites to move. What I want to do for this one is I want to be able to control my sprite by using my keyboard. So I'm going to drag out this event that says when space key is pressed. Now one thing I'm going to do is I want to change it to, I want to use my up arrow. I'm going to go back now to motions. So now I've got to think, okay, when I push this button, what do I want to happen? So I want the sprite, when I push the up arrow, I want my sprite, or my Scratch Cat as I so fondly call him, to move in the upward direction. So the way that I do this is I'm going to have him point in a direction, and I'm going to have my sprite go in the up direction, and I'm going to have him move. I'm going to drag out a move 10 steps block. Now, instead of going 10 steps, what I can do is if I want to, I can change it to however many that I want. So I'm just going to use 25. Alright, so let's see how that works. I'm pushing my up button, and my sprite is moving. Now, as you may see, the sprite has rotated so it's actually facing in the direction that it's moving. If you want that to happen, that's great. If you want it to stay kind of so it's just facing left or right, or a different way, there's a way you can change that. I'm going to click this little eye that's kind of in the top left corner of my sprite. It gives me some more information about that sprite. It tells me the name of it, it gives me the XY coordinates, and it gives me something called a rotation style. So right now my sprite is going to kind of turn and face in the direction that it's moving. I can lock it so it's only facing left or right, and then I can lock it so it's only facing one direction. For me, I like locking it so it only faces left or right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So as you can see, once I clicked on that, my sprite is now facing, it's back to facing forward again. So now going back to building our movements, I built my upward movement, now I want to go ahead and build the rest of them. So to make this a little easier on myself, instead of having to go back and drag all of those blocks out again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the set of blocks that I have right now. I'm going to drag that down a little bit so I can read it. And now all I have to do is go through and just make my changes. So when down arrow key is pressed, I want it to face in the downward direction and move 25 steps. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this for my left and my right movement. Now, this is the way that makes the most sense to me. One of the first lessons that I have my students do is they're given the lesson that just says, get your sprite to move. And they've all come up with different ways that make more sense to them. As long as you're accomplishing the goal, I really don't care about what the blocks look like. It's just, can you do it? So I've built my 4 scripts. Let's see if they worked. So I'm moving down. Oh, sorry, I gotta click over here. I forgot. I'm moving down. I'm moving up. I'm moving left. And I'm moving right. So not too shabby. We accomplished that. So that's one way you can kind of get your sprite to move around the page. Let's look at some of these other scripts though too. Let's say I kind of want to jazz it up. Well, first of all, I feel kind of bad that Scratch Cat's moving around in blank white space. So I'm going to choose a backdrop. So down here, I've got a stage. This is one backdrop. I'm going to click this button right here where I can choose a backdrop from the library. And it's summer. We all want to be on the beach. So I'm going to go ahead and select that button. So now Scratch Cat, instead of floating around in space, is gallivanting and frolicking around a nice beach. I'm pretty jealous. Alright, so we've got our backdrop set. Let's go back to our scripts. So one thing what we're going to do is we kind of went ahead and we made our motions. And I don't know why mine's not showing up right now. It's just probably trying to mess around with me a little bit. Oh, that's because I'm still on backdrop. I need to click the sprite button. See? Learning on the fly. Alright, so we made our Scratch Cat move around the screen. Now I want to kind of change the way the sprite looks. So I'm going to go back to my Events button. Well, you know, before I do that, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and look at the Looks button. I click on this, and the Looks category shows me different things my sprite can say, think. It can change its costume, it can change colors. Let's go ahead and I want to go ahead and have my Scratch Cat change colors. So I'm going to go back to my Events block because normally a lot of your scripts will start out with the event. And this time I want to have it change color. I want to have it something happen when the sprite is clicked. So I drag out that event. I go back to my Looks. And I want to go ahead and I want to change the color effect on my cat. So I'm going to snap that one in place. And so let's see what happens when I click my Scratch Cat. And Scratch Cat now changes colors every time I click. Kind of a pretty cool trick if you ask me. So that's one way you can kind of get your sprite to change the way it looks. There's a bunch of other ways too, and I highly recommend that you kind of play around with them. Another thing I can do is I want my animation to be able to say something. So what I'm going to do is, starting out with the events, I'm going to pull out a when green flag clicked button. So whenever I start my animation by clicking up here, my words should hypothetically appear. I go back to Looks, and I want it to say something, but then have it disappear. So I'm going to drag out a say hello for 2 seconds. Now instead of it saying hello, I'll click in the box, and when it's highlighted, I can type in whatever I want it to say. So I'm going to have it say, welcome to my Scratch project. Hopefully this will work when I click the green flag. And there you have it. It went ahead and disappeared. So you can make it say things for a certain amount of time. You can make it say things for the entire time of your project, whatever you want. Now finally, let's go ahead and let's look at some sounds. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and start with my events. Now I'm going to drag out my when green flag is clicked. Now I can explore the sounds. So it can play sounds, it can play a drum, it can play a certain note if you are musically inclined that way. You can change the volume, you can change the speed of the sound. Right now, since this is an intro, I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm going to have it go ahead and play a sound. And right now it's got a meow sound. Let's say I want something a little bit different. I can go to my Sounds tab. And what I can do is I can explore a sound. I can choose it from the library that Scratch already has set up. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And let's see, what do I really like? Let's try car passing. It's a little silent. Let's do. There we go, because nothing's more annoying than a boing sound, right? So we'll click OK for that, and now we've got our sound. I go back to my scripts, and I want it to play sound boing. So when I hit the button, all of this theoretically should happen. So it shows my text, it played the sound. I can still move my character everywhere. But let's say, I really like that boing sound. I want to go ahead and have it playing over and over. So there's these control scripts up here, and what it does is it kind of gives directions for how much or when things should happen. So I'm going to have mine repeat 10 times, and then as it plays the sound boing, I'm going to have it play a boing and then have it wait a second, so it kind of gets a clue. Giving it that wait command lets the program actually kind of think and lets it reset itself. So now let's see if it actually works. And there you have it. So it's going all sorts of fun times. You get that nice sound. So these are just a couple of very basic things you could do in Scratch. Before you know it, you'll be creating projects like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one that I have eventually created. I worked on this one with my students, and I worked on a game where you have to collect certain items. It's kind of like a very easy to find treasure hunt where you are racing the clock. So I hit my start button, and let's go. As you can see, as I collect the items, they appear on the list on the bottom left corner of the screen. It would also help if I was pushing the right button every time, I must say. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things you can do for Scratch. In the interest of saving time, I'm going to kind of stop it here, but you can create games, stories, different animations. It's a really neat way for kids to be able to be creative and share what they've done with their other students. I hope this is a tool you are interested in exploring. If you ever have any questions, you can ask me and I will do my best to help you. Have a good one!